Hey everybody, I'm really excited to be back. It's been a while since I've done my last vlog, and I bet there's a lot of things that you might be thinking about. Just how am I doing? What have I been doing since then? So I guess to start off, I want to begin by where I left off with the last vlog. So with the last vlog, I did mention to you that I was in the process of getting my master's degree in statistics with the concentration being data science from California State University East Bay in 2023, specifically the month of May of 2023. And good news is I got the degree. I managed to prepare for my graduation ceremony, actually have an in-person ceremony for the first time ever since high school, because since 2015, I had the opportunity to go to my associate's degree graduation ceremony when I got my associate's degree for transfer in mathematics from Evergreen Valley College. But then I had to skip that because I wanted to go to my sister's graduation, for she was getting her first bachelor's degree in communication studies. And then for 2020, the COVID pandemic meant there was no in-person graduation ceremony, so everything was done online. So for me, the most that I got was a picture of me on a slide with a quote from me and then the logo of San Jose State University. That was it. And as disappointing as it was to not have that moment on stage, I was okay with it. Because the most important thing was that I had my degree. That was where all that matters. And plus, while San Jose State asked if I would like to come back for 2021, 2022 to make up that lost opportunity to celebrate my success with that degree on stage, I wanted to invest more time in preparing for my commencement when I get my master's. When I got my master's, specifically. Especially since the master's degree took only 2 years, and I felt that it was kind of a waste of time to go to my undergrad ceremony when the ceremony for my grad degree was just right around the corner. So I was willing to wait 2 years just to prepare for that. And as it turns out, that preparation was worth it. Because that moment when I had my grad ceremony in May of 2023, that marked a huge change in my life since high school. And it's a very symbolic one, so I'm glad that I got to have my first in-person ceremony since high school to be when I get my master's degree. For a couple of reasons. One, 8 years since high school graduation is a lot of time to go through a lot of personal and spiritual and career and mental change. I've learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes. I tried different things in my life. And it all culminated in a bunch of mindset changes that I experienced in grad school. So I think it's really symbolic to have that moment at this point in my life. Secondly, I think that for me, especially, while I do appreciate what college brought into my life, all the friends that I met, all the clubs I got to be involved in, and all the things that I've learned along the way, I think that a master's degree is a good place for me to stop. And it's not to take away from what I've experienced when I was in college. I think that for me, especially in terms of my life goals, I believe that my own success and my own career goals lie elsewhere. Not in academia, but out in the working world. I believe that there's a lot of things that I want to experience in my life that lie outside of school. Because the classroom can only teach you so much. So I feel that this year, as well as the rest of the previous year, was an opportunity for me to explore beyond that, to find a life for myself outside of school, and to see where that takes me. And yes, it's not college, or more of it, but it's still a good learning opportunity. since there's just so many different ways that you can learn outside of college. There's participating in online communities that focus on certain topics that you're interested in, like how I am a part of the R4DS online learning community, participating in the book clubs, and really just offering my own perspectives on different things that people want to hear different perspectives on, especially in regards to R programming. There's also doing extra projects on the side, using my knowledge of R code to come up with whatever I'm interested in and want to explore, whether it's making a dashboard, exploring different kinds of R packages, anything that helps me to continue to grow and develop as an R programmer. And then also, I think I need a much needed rest, especially since so much of my core identity and my experiences have been sort of built around school, which, as much as it's influenced my life, it is kind of limiting in a sense, and that it can sometimes rob me of what I could also be experiencing outside of it. And so I made the conscious choice to stop at a master's degree. And it's a decision that I'm certain of, and I'm not really going to walk back on. Because I think I've had enough education for a while. It does kind of feel fatiguing when you're constantly in school all the time. And I'm okay with it, and I'm going to move forward from there. So I'm still thankful for all the staff, all the teachers, and all the people that I met in school, whether it's San Jose State, Evergreen Valley College, or even California State University East Bay. But it's time for me to move on. And that's what I'm going to do moving forward. I still want to talk to people or just connect with people that are from those spaces. It's just that I'm at this point now where I want to explore, go outside the nest, and just put my wings out and fly around and just explore myself and what kind of person I want to be and where do I see myself in the next couple of years. Something that is more easily explored when I'm keeping my mind open and appreciating the past where it is and using it as a springboard to jump into unknown things. For you're not done learning when you graduate from school. In fact, it's just the beginning of a new stage in the learning process. For learning is lifelong, and to continue to grow and live a fulfilling life, you have to consciously seek opportunities to learn while also celebrating your wins every now and then, just to remind yourself that while you're still growing, you're still capable of a lot of things. So that's just generally my perspective on that. But yeah, that was kind of my mentality, especially with getting my master's degree. And so after getting my master's degree, I spent the next couple of 8 months since my graduation just really exploring myself and just really thinking about what do I do outside of school, and just thinking of where do I want to work and what do I want to do after that. For after graduation, I started getting into the job hunt, just putting my application out there, getting interviews from all these different organizations and companies, and just trying to hone in my craft as someone who's really interested in R programming and someone with a statistics background. Just figure out where that is, and that, I would say, was pretty difficult, especially since I wasn't sure where to start with life outside of school, to the point where I even tried to go back to college in some way, where I took a yoga class just as a way to get a way for me to de-stress and relax a little bit, as I tried to search for jobs and just try to figure out my next moves after college. And while I did enjoy yoga class, I enjoyed being able to relax and have something to do and think of outside of school, it was pretty clear for me that college isn't really my thing anymore. Taking classes especially. And it's not to say I'm going to stop learning, but it's more that I found other ways that I could be learning instead of the traditional college system. And not to mention that it was a life that I was already too familiar with, that I think at some point I was ready to let go. So, as there was moments during the yoga class time where I was just waiting for the class to end. And it isn't to take away from what I learned in yoga class. It was more that I was just tired of this rigid school schedule where you're just sitting in class for an hour and a half and you're doing it maybe 2 times a week or 3 times, depending on just the nature of the class. And you're essentially being lectured to. Sure, there's things for you to do in this class, but this idea of just going at someone's pace and then just kind of going with it and then having to do it even if you don't want to, especially to maintain good attendance and just be able to dedicate to it, it was a life that I was ready to let go of. And there were times where I just wanted to quit because of just my desire to move beyond the college space as a student and just get out of that student mindset in a traditional sense. But also, at the same time, wanted to see it to the end because I already signed up for this course and just paid maybe about, let's say, $30 or $46 for this course at a community college. And I wasn't going to put that to waste, especially when I really needed to relax and de-stress during difficult times, especially in the economy and the world right now, and just that kind of post-college doubt that you might feel where you're just wondering, are you good enough? Do you have anything for yourself outside of college? All these things that was just kind of going through my mind that was an opportunity for yoga to help address by giving me a space in which I can de-stress and then put that aside and just focus on me, my own mental and spiritual healing, and my own relief as well. So I committed to it for a couple of months, and then when the class ended, that was when I started to really experience a miracle in my life, especially at a time when I was just unsure whether I was just good enough for anything. When, after months and months of applying for different jobs, just retailing my resume, just honing out my craft and my skills as an art programmer, as someone with the love for community and lifelong learning, and just bettering myself as a person. And I eventually got to this point where I managed to get a job. So, after all that work, I finally managed to get a job now where I'm doing a lot of data work. I guess you could describe me as a data manager, where I'm just working with people to address their data needs, but also create a culture of understanding and thought that people could use to make informed decisions that impact everyday people. I guess that's the best way to describe my work. Now, sure, it's sort of related to what I do, but it also pushes me in other areas that I may not have focused on as much. And I'm okay with that. Even though I don't use much R in my line of work, I'm still using some of the skills that I've learned in grad school, like critical thinking, bias checking, assumptions checking, and just ultimately being a good communicator when it comes to what I do. Because one of the most important skills that I think is very important to learn when you're on any kind of job is communication skills. Because it doesn't just extend to what you know, it also extends to how to communicate with other people. Because whatever team that you work on, you're going to work with a lot of people, many of whom may not have the same skills or perspective that you have. So part of communicating data or information is to be able to explain it in such a way that other people can understand, even people who do not have a background in statistics or data science. Because every work that you do is benefiting the organization, and one of the ways to effectively benefit that organization is to make sure that people can understand it, and that you make sure that and that you help them find what is it that they should take away from this data that you're showing them. Because I imagine that if you're talking to the CEO of a company, they're probably not going to care about what methods exactly that you use to look at this data, or what machine learning algorithm or something that you're trying to fit in, which is nice to know, but unless they specifically ask for it, it's probably not really relevant to their job. What they probably want to know is just, what is the data telling them about the situation that you're studying? What are some issues that might be explaining the trends that you're seeing? And how can they act on it to make better informed decisions that continue to help them make progress as an effective organization, as an effective unit, and also as an effective servant to the people that they're impacted by the work that they do. Things like that speak less about your technical skills as a data scientist or a statistician, and more about your people skills, how you relate to others, how you communicate information with them, and most of all, how do you handle everyday work situations that has to do with the personal and more or less about the technical, like conflict, disagreements, getting things done. Things that are more about your work ethic, your character, and the way you interact, and the relationships you form with other people. Those things that are just as valuable as those technical skills. And just given how much I find these things valuable and also interesting to me, I'm okay that the work that I do isn't completely about art. In fact, it's kind of like a much needed break, because sometimes just constantly focusing on one thing, it really can stress me out. So sometimes I like to have a balance of both. Something that is just technical enough to be grounded in evidence and fact and logical thinking, but also creative enough that it puts the people at the center of everything that I do, rather than seeing them as some abstract that's less than human. So I'm pretty okay with that, and really excited about it, and I feel pretty good about it, and ultimately I hope to look forward to what the future holds for me now that I have a job now, and I'm really focusing on building myself up professionally and personally and intellectually moving forward. So it's been a great 8 months, and they were pretty much a struggle, I'll say, but I'm proud of it. So then that leaves me, what's next for me? Well, now that I'm here, I would say the next steps for me would be to continue some of the things that I like to do. Because one of the things I would love to do is to be able to hike more. I want to be able to travel to a variety of different places and different nature spots all across the Bay Area and beyond it. Because hiking is definitely one of the spaces where I feel the most comfortable just being myself. It's just this idea of just being away from the busyness of everyday human life and then getting lost in nature where you don't have to think about that for a moment, and just really embracing the beauty that is just natural world that we live in, and then just working to preserve it in some way or another, which is something that I care about because I love nature, and I would love for other people to experience those same things that I enjoy about nature as well. Whether it's through volunteer work, cleaning up, the parks and neighborhood on my spare time, or even participating in work that helps to address things like climate change, or even just environmental conservation broadly, or just even creating a thriving and sustainable community that everyone can be a part of. Things like that hiking reflects from a more personal as well as a broader standpoint. So I would love to do more hiking. Maybe even go to more national parks or go to other local state parks, some of which are in the Bay Area where I live, or even outside of it. Sure. Because so far I've been to Mission Peak, which is probably the most popular spot in the Bay Area. I've also been to Alviso County Park. I've also been to Quicksilver Park. I've been to Castle Rock. I've been to Pinnacles National Park, which is a really new national park that is pretty close to the Bay Area, which is about an hour and 30 minutes south of San Jose, near the Hollister area. Or even I've also been to Muir Woods, which is up north in Mill Valley area, which is a pretty nice area. It's definitely one of the coolest places I've been to. especially with the large, massive redwood trees. You also have the fact that it's much cooler than the rest of the valley because of all the clouds and the fog in that area. And also, it has a wonderful beach as well over there. So those are some of the greatest nature spaces that I've been to. And I hope moving forward that I get to see more of it someday. Or just go more of them. So that is something I am looking forward to. For me, for sure. Next up, I think another thing I want to do is to hopefully have the opportunity to be able to speak at a conference or even really continue to share my story as an individual on a broader scale. Because one of the things that I want to do is to be able to really share my perspectives on the world that I believe would be valuable, but also really highlight a lot of things that I've learned a lot in my life or have gone through that I feel are valuable things to bring up if we truly want to create a more inclusive space. Namely, my own experiences as a guy with a learning disability who comes from a family of Vietnamese American refugees who grew up just not knowing what I wanted to do and who felt really like I couldn't belong anywhere because of my own different experiences, whether it's just my family background or just my perspective on the world or even just my own aspirations to just be more connected as a community or as people. Things that I feel are worth knowing about that I would like others to hear that for many years I've struggled to communicate, partly because of my disability, part of it because of bullying, but also because I was just someone who was lost and trying to figure myself out as a kid. For part of the impetus of this vlog was that, when I was going through a lot of struggles while I was getting my undergraduate degree at San Jose State University, one of the things I've always wished for was some kind of representation of people like me. People who have the perspectives that I do and someone who has done the same things that I've done before and who could guide or mentor me through this process. Because when I was an undergrad, I would look around at all these college vlogs from San Jose State University, and I would notice that there were quite a lot of people who blog about their experiences at San Jose State, a lot of which I could relate to, but not one that's very specific to my major or just what I've done, especially applied math. Because I was just a lost kid, unsure how to handle this thing called college. And even if I could ask professors or so on, it's not the same as asking someone who's just a student like you in the same school, going through the same program, going through these same experiences as you, and then having been there and done that, and then now coming back to guide you along the way to show you, hey, if I could do it, you could do it. That was a kind of representation that, while I didn't quite need it then, because I was still able to graduate regardless, it was something that was nice to have. That could be an extra boost of sense of helping me feel seen and feeling empowered as an individual. Just a reminder that I'm not alone in this and that there are people out there who could guide me through all this. And so that was kind of where I was coming from with this need to feel seen or just feel heard and just feel like that I have agency over my life, that I can make the things I want happen. And then now, a couple years later, here I am. I got my undergrad degree from San Jose State University. I got my AST, my associate's degree for transfer from Evergreen Valley College. I got my master's degree in statistics from CSU East Bay. And I've also co-founded a student chapter where I did a lot of social media management for them. I got to a lot of conferences, made a lot of friends, started trying different things. Like I taught a course or two once when I was in grad school. A lot of these things that really helped broaden my horizons and just show me what I was capable of. That has given me so much knowledge about what it means to be a successful college student, how to really navigate the college experience, and most of all, how to be the human being that I am now. And so with all this knowledge, I look back and I think about how I have all this knowledge now, and I just wonder, what can I do with it? What do I do with all these things and experiences and all these perspectives that I have? Because oftentimes, it's the case where you have a lot of students when they go through an experience, they don't want to talk about it or they just want to move on from it. And I could do that for sure. I mean, it is an option for me there. And if I do it, or if anyone does it, no judgment. I mean, I can understand where people are coming from. Once you do something, sometimes you just want to move on and just get on with the rest of your life and experience more things that are outside of what you just experienced. But at the same time, I think back to that 20-year-old me, or 21-year-old for sure, who felt alone, who just didn't feel seen or heard, or just didn't feel like he belonged, who's just looking for answers, maybe just someone who could perhaps explain to him that he's not alone in this, and that there is a way out for this, and that his dreams are possible, that there are people out there who have done it before. And so if they can do it, there's a high possibility that you can do it too. And so I thought about that for a moment and thought maybe there are other people who are just like that 20-year-old me, who are wanting the same thing. And I started thinking how it would be very helpful if I could give what I've learned and just share it with other people. Maybe I don't know everything for sure, because every student's different. There are all these different experiences that people can have when they go through a program like this, or even other college programs, or just going through college in general. But it's still a nice thing to hear, and just be able to have someone you can talk to really talk you through these things and get some information that could better inform your decisions, that help you get the best path possible to your own academic, personal, career success. Which also includes getting your degree successfully. And so that ended up being the foundation for this vlog, a way to really talk about my experiences being in college, and then being able to interact with some of you folks who probably have similar questions or thoughts about what's it like to be pursuing this degree at California State University, East Bay, or just any other school I've gone to, or just my own perspectives on what I think might be the future, or just getting through college in general. Something that I'm pretty proud of, and I've really excited to see come to fruition, especially with all these comments that you've left me in my previous videos, where you share a lot of thoughts about just, whether you like the video or not, and also just asking me questions about how this program works and what to expect moving forward in the program. A lot of which I do my best to answer to the best of my knowledge, especially since, what I might know now might change in the next couple of years, but I imagine is hopefully helpful nevertheless, though, because at the end of the day, I want to help create some kind of community of some sort, where people can find opportunities to be able to ask questions and really just explore their interest and be able to hear from others who have gone through those same things. And one of those people is me. I've done my applied math degree at San Jose State University. I've gotten my master's in statistics at California State University, East Bay. I helped co-found and really did some social media management for the student chapter of American Statistical Association on Cal State East Bay. I've gone to a bunch of conferences. I now currently working in a space similar to that, where I'm using a lot of my data skills to really impact people in the nonprofit space. I've worked in college administration, where I can kind of have an understanding of the sort of the climate of college in general, from my experience as a student, as well as working in administration. And I've done a lot of these things, and a lot more to come moving forward. And so, with all this experience, I imagine that it's probably helpful to be able to hear from people like me, to hear what their thoughts. That way you can get a grip on whether a certain program is compatible for you, what a program is like, and whether or not it's the best move for you to make. Especially since picking any of these pathways, whether getting this degree or that degree, it's a heavy decision, because it's not only expensive, it also requires a lot of time and energy resources. And so it's something that you have to consciously think of before you just make that decision. Because regardless of what happens, whatever decision you make, it's going to affect you. And it's best to have all the information possible to help best inform that in one way or another. Explore that. So that's my hopes and ambitions, and I would say I've been going pretty strong for the past couple of years and months, and I'm really excited by all the feedback and all the thoughts that you have that I've been able to hear and respond to. And I hope to keep this going as much as I can, even though I currently have quite a bit of a busy schedule. Because I think that there's value in building community, and I think that we don't always have to be strangers. And I believe that it brings a lot of good to be able to have this kind of space. So I hope to keep it that way. So, and with that note, I want to end it here and say, hey, thank you all for listening to me for all these years. It's been really phenomenal to be able to have such wonderful questions and responses from y'all, and to be able to do this on my own time, because this is something that I'm doing on my own time. It's a labor of love for me, and it takes a lot of time for me to even prepare all of these vlogs and to be able to put them out for all of you to watch and listen to. And with that, I say thank you all so much for listening, and if you're interested or you have any questions or thoughts that you'd like to share, be sure to put them down in the comments in this video below, or even subscribe to my channel, where you can continue to get updates on just when I'm going to put more vlogs or just anything in general related to my channel. So with that, thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.